Welcome back to Strikler, guys, and today we've got a big update for you. Khamzat Chimaev just sent 2 words that have the entire UFC world convinced Sean Strickland's second title reign might be the shortest in middleweight history. Right after losing the UFC middleweight title to Sean Strickland at UFC 328, the man known as Boars hopped on Twitter and simply typed, "See you again soon." No context, no explanation, no clarification, just a cryptic message that left everyone wondering whether he was hinting at a rematch or just being theatrical. Honestly, both are entirely on the table, and that is exactly what makes this situation so entertaining to watch unfold. Sean Strickland pulled off one of the most discussed victories in recent middleweight history. He defeated Chimaev by split decision. The rounds were genuinely competitive. Strickland earned credit for rounds 2, 3, and 5 on 2 of the scorecards, while Chimaev took rounds 1, 4, and 5 on the dissenting card. The fight was close, and it is hard to argue against either man walking away feeling like they deserved it. The significance of this result cannot be understated. Strickland is now a 2-time UFC middleweight champion, a milestone only one other fighter in that division has ever reached, Israel Adesanya, who Strickland famously dethroned to claim his first title at UFC 293.
No, I mean, again, he's a fucking savage, you guys. I was hitting him with shots. Like, I mean, look how swollen my hand's swollen. Like, he would just fucking eat it and come forward. Like, the guy was a savage, and he was willing to fucking die for what he wanted. You know, he's a fucking savage.
Here is where the story becomes more layered. Chimaev walked into that fight dealing with a weight cut that reportedly exceeded 45 pounds. Anyone watching closely could see him running on fumes after the opening couple of rounds, and the reasons behind that physical collapse became a talking point immediately after the fight. Joe Rogan offered an explanation that makes considerable sense. Earlier in the year, when Alex Pereira vacated the light heavyweight title, credible reports circulated about a potential vacant title fight being put together between Chimaev and Jiri Prochazka at 205 pounds. Chimaev had reportedly begun bulking up in preparation for that opportunity. When the matchup fell through, he was stuck carrying significantly more body mass than a middleweight should ever attempt to cut from.
Eventually, everybody meets their match, and Khamzat Chimaev lost his ultimate.
It was an incredible fight, incredibly close fight. The scorecards reflected that. Both guys just drained the tank, particularly in that 5th round. As Sean's hitting him, it's like they had everything they had. They emptied it out.
He said he already had his eyes on 205.
It could have been a factor. The fact that he did try to bulk up, less thinking that he was going to fight Jiri Prochazka for 205. I feel like a rematch is what the fans are going to want, and that's what I'm going to want.
Arman Tsarukyan, who had spent considerable time in Chimaev's corner during fight week, took a very different tone. The lightweight contender went on Instagram after the result and made his position clear. He believed the wrong man had his hand raised that night. He did not explicitly call out any individual judge, but his words were pointed enough for anyone to read between the lines. While Tsarukyan was clearly stewing over the result, one person on the completely opposite end of the emotional spectrum was quietly having the time of his life. Dricus du Plessis was visibly thrilled. Du Plessis had beaten Strickland twice, the second time even more convincingly than the first, before Chimaev arrived and systematically dismantled him at UFC 319 last August with relentless wrestling and a suffocating, drain-the-life-out-of-you game plan. Losing that belt had to sting badly. But now with Strickland back on top of the division, du Plessis finds himself in an enviable position again.
Yeah, so fight went exactly the way I thought it would. Great fight by Strickland. Like I said, it's so hard to keep that man on the ground. He is incredibly tough to hold down, and he made Khamzat tired, and that's exactly what happened. I knew, and like I said, in the stand-up, he just won't be able to hang with him. So congratulations, I guess this makes me world champion again.
On the Chimaev side, UFC CEO Dana White confirmed after the event that Boars has already indicated he wants to move up to 205 pounds going forward. That decision makes sense from almost every angle. The weight cut was clearly unsustainable, and if Chimaev can fight at his natural size, he could be a legitimate terror at light heavyweight. The division also happens to be wide open right now because newly crowned champion Carlos Ulberg is currently sidelined after tearing his ACL during his knockout win over Prochazka at UFC 327 in April, which gives the landscape some extra breathing room.
It seemed like Khamzat really struggled to make the weight this time, and he said...
He literally walked up to me after the fight and said, I want to move up.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight in this weight class anymore.
Interesting. And I know it's very soon, but like, do you feel like he probably needs a fight to earn the title shot there and stuff like that? Carlos is injured.
Yeah,
Have you thought about that division?
I don't know. I'm not even thinking about that. Yeah. But, you know, him moving up's exciting.
Yeah. Into that open space steps Paulo Costa, who has been extremely vocal about wanting Chimaev immediately. Costa made his own light heavyweight debut at UFC 327, stopping Azamat Murzakanov in impressive fashion. The Brazilian and Chimaev had actually been booked to fight back at UFC 294 in October 2023, but Costa withdrew due to an elbow infection, and the matchup never materialized. Now both men appear to be arriving at 205 pounds around the same time, and Costa is practically begging Dana White to make it happen.
Let's go.
Back at middleweight, Strickland is already mapping out what comes next while healing a fractured nose from the championship rounds. A broken nose generally requires 6 to 8 weeks of recovery before a fighter can return to full contact sparring, meaning Strickland will not be rushing back into the octagon. He named Nassourdine Imavov as the most logical first challenger for his second reign, and the case for that fight is genuinely strong.
Who do you want next?
Me and my girl, we've been in camp for like over 6 months, and you guys know how camp is. We don't do things on weekends. We don't travel. We don't go out to eat. She's pretty much my dietitian, everything. So I'm going to give her a break. I think, what do they say? Nassourdine's next.
Probably.
So he's next. I'll take a little breather. I want to go support my boy Alex at the White House. I want to go watch him make a history and get that third belt. But give me a little time, let my broken nose heal, and let's get back in there and get some fights going on. We must move forward.
The reactions from around the MMA world added texture to everything. Patty Pimblett noted that despite widespread fan support for Strickland, the general expectation heading in was that Chimaev was the genuine favorite, given how dangerous he is as a complete fighter. Pimblett highlighted Strickland's surprising effectiveness at stopping takedowns and how visibly exhausted Chimaev looked as the fight progressed.
Strickland? Told you, 48-47 him. Yes, Sean. 2-time champ. Yes, Sean. Give Khamzat his due, putting the belt on him and that. Very good sport, lad. Sean Strickland, man. Nice to see him with that belt around him again. He's a sick man. Sean Strickland, man. No one gave him a chance, lad. 2 of the biggest upsets in title fight history, lad. Chimaev and Adesanya. Strickland's the man. Yes, lad.
Sean O'Malley offered a similar reading, noting that Chimaev came out aggressively in the early going, but faded badly once the pace refused to slow down. He praised Strickland's cardio and defensive composure throughout 5 rounds, describing the victory as one of the most genuinely surprising results he had watched.
Sean Strickland. New.
Chael Sonnen, who attended UFC 328 in person, described the crowd inside the arena as largely aligned with how the judges scored it. He reflected on the tension of the final round and suggested the closing moments of round 5 were ultimately what separated the two men.
He was a 4.5 to 1 underdog, but he was a 6 to 1 underdog the night he beat Adesanya. So at this point, we simply need to ask ourselves one thing, which is just where do we go from here? And there would never be a better time for Chimaev to leave the weight class. He's been talking about wanting to go to 205. Well, now there would be nothing stopping him. But where are you guys at? Are you guys at, hey, we need an immediate rematch? I would love to hear from you. Because I could get on that bandwagon. There was something about them making up. There was something about them shaking hands and talking. There was something very honorable about Chimaev putting a belt around Strickland that didn't immediately, for me, pull me towards, hey, we got to do a rematch. But there is something about our sport that we can't just overlook respect. We can't overlook sportsmanship. We can't just grade guys down for that.
So, what are your thoughts about all of this? Do let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more MMA content like this.